Now, instead of doing an expression for the day, what I would like to do is get into a little bit more of what our next lesson is going to be on Burlington English. And it's going to involve a little vocabulary lesson for us. Now, again, in my opinion, vocabulary is the most important thing for all of us. We need to learn more words. So what I would like to do this morning is introduce our next topic, introduce our next Burlington English activity. So I'm going to bring it up here on the screen. Oops, I got to switch accounts. Give me just a second here. Okay. All right, so heading into this week, our new lesson is going to be a reading activity. Now, I know some of you are thinking about, how can reading help us when it comes to vocabulary? Well, that's going to be something that's, I think, very important to talk about here. And I think for many of you, this might be the first time that that you hear talking about how we can be better at learning vocabulary. Now, for example, what I want us to do in this first activity is just to see how this concept is going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and maximize the screen a little bit, so hopefully everybody can see that. Okay. So what I would like to do first is, in this first activity, I'm going to demonstrate something that we're going to discuss, and that is how words work together. Now, this is just kind of a simple demonstration of how it works. I'm sure many of you would already be able to answer these questions, but let's take a look here at this first activity. So if you can see here on the screen, let's see if I can measure it up just a little better for us. Okay. So first off, as you can see here on the screen, I want to bring up these four pictures. So we have Amy, Oscar, Vlad, and Kate. So first off, if you notice what I did, you can actually expand the photos. So in case you have some sort of reading, which we're going to do for this week's activity, you can expand or kind of minimize the size. But in looking at each situation, we can see by looking at the pictures that each person is in a different location. Now, obviously, we can use our eyes to see these sort of situations. But what I want to talk about here this morning is thinking about when we're listening and how words work together. So for example, let's demonstrate with just this simple activity. So if you look here on the screen, I've got four sentences, four very short sentences. And again, what you guys can do is you can help me. You can use your microphones for this first activity. So I'm going to read the sentence up into the box. And then up here we have our four choices. So what I want to do real quickly is to have you guys help me by matching the picture, right? However, the pictures, I don't think we necessarily need the pictures for all of them. We need the pictures for some of them. But the idea is to think about how they go together. So again, if looking at the photos, right, the idea is the pictures can help us, but maybe the words can help us too. For example, for number one, I see Amy here. Okay, so there's her situation. So guys, I'm going to read and then you tell me what the answer is going to be. Amy gets her food at the
supermarket.
Supermarket. Okay, so that looks like the supermarket there, right? Okay, let's try number two. Oscar gets his fruits and vegetables from his
vegetable garden.
Yeah, kind of looks like he's a gardener, right? I see here he's got some sort of tools, and those vegetables look perfect, don't they? They don't look real. That's a very orange pumpkin there. That's like super orange. All right, let's look at Vlad. Vlad gets his fruits and vegetables from a what?
Farmer's market.
A farmer's market. Do you guys like to shop at farmer's markets?
No.
No?
Yes. Yes.
Some of you yes, some of you no. Oh, Elaine, you said no. Why not?
Not interested.
Not interested. Okay, well, I'll be honest. I'm not very interested either, but my wife loves it. Okay. All right. What about the last picture? Kate gets her food from the
Convenience store.
All right, convenience store. Okay. Now, that particular activity, yeah, that particular activity was pretty helpful. I'm going to mute let's see, Fatima, I'm gonna mute your microphone there for me if you don't mind. There we go. Yeah, so as you can see, that activity was kind of easy because we had pictures to help us. So the pictures kind of gave us, as we call it, context. They helped us look at the photo and match the words in the sentence. Now, for example, if I just identified, so I'm going to bring this up here on the screen. So if we just identified the words, if you'll notice, for example, in number one, we have the word food, which of course that helps us, but we get food at many of these places, right? And then in number two, we have the words fruits and vegetables. And of course, fruits and vegetables, we can get fruits and vegetables from many places too. So as you can see in this first activity, the pictures can help us a lot in identifying the context. But oftentimes when we're reading, we don't have pictures. And sometimes it's hard to know how I can put words together or how I can understand how words work together. Now, again, what I want to do this morning is just introduce the lesson, but I want to talk specifically about a vocabulary idea. And this might be new for many of the students here in the class this morning, but for many of the students, returning students, this might be a nice review of what we've talked about in the past. Okay, so what I would like to do first is I'm just going to kind of show you how the lesson works. So again, guys, when you're practicing at home for this lesson, you will see that there will be some vocabulary activities. So again, hopefully you're able to practice these vocabulary activities at home. Remember, use your microphone to record yourself and then listen to yourself. Okay. Again, you've got some review of those vocabulary words. So again, this is the activity you see here. Okay. But I want to talk a little bit about this kind of activity. So again, this kind of activity was like the first one, but if you notice, no pictures. So we have to be able to start putting words together by looking at the other words in the sentence. So for example, let's take a look at maybe number 3 on the screen. Does everyone see number 3 there? I'll zoom in just a little bit here. Okay. So number 3 says, I have a lot blank with the people in my English class. Now, we haven't talked about any of these words, but just look at the words on the screen. Look at the words that you see there in blue. Which word or phrase do you think fits in number 3? I have a lot blank with the people in my English class. Which one do you think might be the answer?
In common?
Yeah, very good. In common. So in this case, how did you know that that might be the answer? How did you know that? Who would like to explain?
I can know from the sentence.
Well, let's be specific, Saba. What words in the sentence helped you?
People in in my English class.
Okay, so
And
people,
me.
right?
Yeah.
And you, that's you, including you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else see anything that could help us? Well, for example, let's look at the words immediately before and immediately after. So, for example, these words, everyone, what I want you to do right now is I want you to say these words with me. A lot in common with. Everyone, let's say that together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. A lot in common with. Okay. Now, what I'm showing is like an expression. So you know when we've been practicing the expressions of the day, remember a few weeks ago we talked about the dog days of summer. Remember that expression? Yeah, notice we say the dog days, not the cat days. For some reason we say the dog days, right? Well, again, all of these words are working together, and they're working together to create meaning. A lot in common with. Now, for example, let's use it here in our example here in the class. So the sentence says, I have a lot in common with the people in my English class. Now, Saba, I'll come back to you for just a moment. What does that sentence mean? I have a lot in common with the people in my English class.
I think it can like uh, about traditionals, about um,
What's something?
thinking.
Well, what's something you definitely share with everybody?
Trying to learn English.
Exactly. Yeah. This this is not sewing class, right? Or dance class. It's English
Yeah.
class. So in this case, yeah, if this were dancing class, I would not be the teacher. Okay, just remember that, everybody. So if this were dancing class, it would not be me. But the idea is we all share something. We have something in common with everybody in the class. So what I'm trying to demonstrate here this morning is a very important topic, right? It's something that we all need to learn if we want to be better English students. Do we want to be better English students? Yes? Of
Yes.
course we do. That's why we're here.
Of course.
So that's the idea. So again, what I'm just demonstrating here this morning is how we need to think about words going together. Okay, now let me just quickly go through before I get to the next topic. So for homework, one of the things I want you to do is to read this article. It's a very short article. And again, if you want to zoom in, you can click on the little plus button to zoom in on the article. Okay. And then you can also listen to the article. So for example, there's a little play button here. Let me turn on just the audio just for a moment. Okay, so you can at least hear. Hold on just a second. Okay, so for example, just listen. I'm going to play just a small bit of this. Community gardens. Jason Cole is growing vegetables, but not in his backyard. Okay, did everyone hear that? It's just a little. It was just a little bit. So this is what you can do for homework, is you can read and listen to the article at the same time. And I think that's a good idea. Now, we're going to talk a lot more about this article next week, and especially in connection with the topic we're talking about now. Okay, so I'm going to reduce that for just a moment. Now, again, there are activities you're going to do, and you're not going to do everything. Okay, you're not going to do all 10 activities. So instead, you're going to do the activities from number 3 to number 8. Okay, so those will be the activities you'll practice for homework. What I would like to do, though, is to start talking about the vocabulary focus. So that's what I'm going to talk about here. So for example, in activity number 10 here, and we're not going to do this activity, we're going to do this activity next week. But the idea is, it says complete the collocations with the word public. That's what I want to talk about here for the last part of class. What exactly is a collocation and how to use this in the example with the word public. Now, for example, let's kind of say these words together. Everyone just say them there at your computer or phone. In, available to the, places,
Places.
housing,
Housing.
property,
Property.
transportation.
Transportation.
Okay, now I want to talk just about a couple of these words because some of these are not exactly collocations that you think of immediately. I want to talk a little bit about these 3 words, or these 4 words here: places, housing, property, transportation. Now, we often see these words together with the word public. For example, public transportation. You guys see those words together sometimes? Public transportation. What would be an example of public transportation? Who could tell me an example? What's an example of public transportation?
Buses.
Bus.
A bus, for example, or a
Yeah.
train. Yeah.
Train.
Yeah. Okay, so the idea here is some of you already kind of know how these words work together. You know that public transportation would be different from maybe driving your car, right? I don't think your car would be a public transportation. So that's the idea I want us to think about here for the last part of class. Okay, so everybody, I'm going to be sharing this very important idea with you. This idea is so important that I would recommend you watch this video again when I'm finished today. It will help you so much in being a better English student. And I think many of the students in the class might remember this topic. We've talked about this topic before, but let me share this very important idea with you today. So everybody, let's say this word together. Now, I pronounce it differently from other people. Some people might say collocations. I say co-locations. So everybody, let's say that together. Co-locations.
Location.
Okay.
Locations.
Locations.
Good. Now, co-location is a combination of two ideas. Co, the first part, C-O, means together. So, for example, co-worker, right? A co-worker is somebody you work with together. And then location means place. So, for example, you're in a location right now. Now, in language, co-locations are when we have two or more words that go together. But notice this last word, naturally. They go together naturally. Now, you might say, Mr. John, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm outside in a park? Is that nature? No. Naturally means that they go together and people use them and everybody understands them. Now, sometimes you guys are listening to English and you're saying, I don't understand what this person is saying. I might understand some of the words, but I don't understand how the words are going together. Well, many of you are beginning to understand that, but that's what I want to talk about today. How do words go together? Well, for English speakers, excuse me, for people like me, when I use these words, I'm not really thinking about it. They're natural to me. Okay, now guys, when you speak your language, when you speak, those words are natural to you. So in this case, that's what we mean. Naturally means I don't have to think about it. They just go together. Now, so I want to share with everybody that at this level, so kind of here at the low intermediate level, this is when we really begin to teach students how words work together. Okay? Now, as we said before, in the Burlington English lesson, they talked about the word public. Now, I have here just a little visual demonstration, and I want you guys to help me, okay? So everybody, you got maybe your texting fingers ready because we're going to use the chat box for this activity, okay? Now, what I'm doing here, this is called a word map. And what I'm trying to show you with this word map is different words that go together with the word public. Now, I chose a couple of other examples here. For example, public parking, right? We like public parking, right? Sometimes we have to pay money, but still, we like that. Public school. Public school is sort of like our program. It's a public school, right? We don't necessarily have to pay money for it. Okay, now guys, here's what I want you to do in the chat box right now. So everybody, you got your chat boxes ready? I want you to put together what other words do you think go together with the word public? Now, we already talked about public transportation, so I'll put that one up here on the screen, but I'm going to use your suggestions. So guys, let's use the chat box now, and then I'll add those suggestions to our word map. Okay, so right now, can you think of other words that go together with public? And I'll tell you whether it's yes or no. Okay. Okay, so I see, okay. Okay, I'm seeing some good examples here in the box. Okay. All right. Okay, good. I see that one. That's a good one. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Okay, I see some good ones here. Okay, I'm just kind of adding them to the list, and we'll talk about them here in just a moment. Okay, good. Okay. All right. Okay, I see a pretty good list here in our box, in our chat box. Okay. I'm just kind of going back real quickly. Okay, I see some good ones there. Okay, I see some really good ones. Okay. Okay. All right, that's good. I think we have a good list there. So I think you guys have some good ones there. Okay. All right. Elaine, do you mean shipping center or shopping center? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. You can close your chat boxes now if you want to come back to the screen. So I've taken some of your suggestions and I've put them here on the screen, and I'm trying to type them in as fast as I can. Now, some of them, a couple of them, I've put some question marks next to, and that's only because my question is, in general, do we think of these as public in the same way that we think of like public library? But let's take a look at the list. So we've got public service, public transportation, public beach, public library, public restrooms, okay. Sergey mentioned dining room, okay, public laundry, public lake, community, garden, public park, okay, public theater, museum. I did put a question mark next to airport, and I might put a question mark next to shopping center, only because I don't know if we think of them the same way. So I'm just going to put question marks because generally when we think about, okay, Sergey mentioned housing too. That's a good one. I don't know that we think of airports as public or private. Actually, most airports are considered accessible by everybody, but again, maybe it depends on the country. Maybe not every country has private or public airports. So I'll put a question mark next to them. I think it's possible. So I'm not saying no, but it is possible, I think. And for shopping center, I think a shopping center would be considered public. But just remember that many shopping centers are with private businesses, right? So at that again, those are just question marks that maybe we might need to look at. But you guys came up with a great list here. A lot of great words listed here on our chart. Now, the reason I'm talking about this here this morning is that often co-locations are words like this that we see every day. The word public, for example. So again, using the word public is helpful. Now, think about, Sergey mentions opinion. I like that one too. But for example, public, the opposite of public would be private. Let's think about the word private for just a moment. Now, as I'm looking at a lot of the choices here on the screen, private would probably go together with a lot of these words too. Again, a private garden, sure, you could have a private garden. A private community, yeah, maybe a community that's not open to everyone. Private restrooms, private library. Yeah, so as you can see, many co-locations that we have in everyday language can be co-located with many words. Yeah, so private pools, for example, public pools. Yeah, we forgot pool. Pool can be a public thing too. Now let's put that on the screen. Pool. Okay. All right. So the idea, of course, is that some co-locations, many co-locations, are very easy to put together with many words. And again, a word like public is a fairly easy one. Okay, great job, everybody. Now I'm going to jump back for just a moment to our presentation, and here's the good news. This little visual thing that you see here, I can also share that with students. So again, when we're finished here today, I can share with you this actual document here if you want to go back and look at it again, or of course you can always watch the video. Okay, now I want to go ahead and continue because again, I don't want to go too long over our time. All right, now guys, here's our first problem though. Something we learned last week. So if you see here on the screen, here can be our first problem when it comes to co-locations. One problem is we have to be careful. Words have more than one meaning. Now, the word public, for example, the word public does not have a lot of meanings. Okay, so if you noticed, it was much easier to co-locate the word public. It was much easier to use it together with other words because the word public is basically a word that has only about one or two meanings. However, last week we had a problem. We were talking about the word mind. Do you remember that? We talked about it again here at the beginning of class. But we learned last week that the word mind has more than one definition. Do you remember last week? Some of you came up with some examples. You said, for example, like never mind, right? Or I want to speak my mind. What's on my mind? What I'm thinking about. So for example, if I pull up the dictionary, notice that the word mind, take a look. In this dictionary, the word mind has 67 different ways to use the word. That's a lot, isn't it? Right? Can you remember 67 things?
No.
I can't remember 67 names. I can't. I'm usually good at remembering my students' names, but I can't remember 67 things. And if you remember, for example, the first definition we saw last week was talking about my mind, right? This part of my thinking, right? Thinking, feeling, and remembering. Well, guess what? We learned that that's not always how we use the word. Let's go back and see what some of our challenges are. So here's one of the problems when we think about how words go together. Because words have more than one meaning, sometimes we can be confused when we see the word used in a new way. All right? Now, I'm going to show you two examples. Look at these two sentences, okay? You may not know the meanings of these sentences. So here's the first sentence. The first sentence says, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. Now, you look at that sentence and you think, wait a minute. Okay, so mind. This looks like mind, right? My mind, okay? So there's the mind, right? The little things inside. And then I have the word piece, like a piece of pie or a piece of cake. So wait a minute. I'm going to give you part of my mind? Are you confused by this? Well, again, part of the problem is you may not know that the word mind can have more than one meaning. All right, here's the second example. Take a look. Please, would you mind your tongue? Now you're thinking, wait a minute. Mind, this looks like an action. Is it like the mind we learned last week? Like I don't mind or I mind? So for example, there's my tongue, right? And then you're thinking, wait a minute. Would I be irritated by my tongue? Does my tongue bother me? Do you see the problem here? See, the problem is you know maybe one or two definitions for the word mind, but you may not be thinking about that this word might have more than one meaning. See, that's what I'm trying to show you here as we learn more language. You see, so the problem here is, everybody, you are seeing some examples of some collocations. These words go together. A piece of my mind, or mind your tongue. But if you don't know what they mean, you may be confused at how these words go together. So that's what I'm trying to introduce to you here in this first discussion, this first lesson about mind. You see, we have to understand that mind can have more than one meaning. So that's what I'm trying to show you here this morning. Some collocations are easier. Public places, public housing, public transportation, public school. I see those words everywhere. Well, that's because the word public does not have many definitions. But the word mind has many definitions. And if I don't understand, I might be confused. A piece of my mind, I'm going to give you something from my brain. I'm going to hate my tongue. Well, let me explain what they mean. All right, everybody, look at this picture. Remember we said pictures sometimes can help us? Okay, now everybody look at the picture here. Hopefully this is not your life, but I see a woman and I see a man. Who is angry in this picture?
Woman.
Yes,
Woman.
so ladies, okay, so the men in the group, this is not our problem, right? This is the women here. I apologize here because this is the only picture I could find. So ladies, you might feel this is not fair. This is not fair, Mr. John. I'm not angry all the time. But for example, look at what the woman is saying in this situation. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. Now, what is she doing? She's talking to him, right? And what's the man doing?
Not to leave.
Begin.
Please.
Beginner.
He's begging. He's please, please. Well, okay. Now, ladies, of course, I know everyone's nice here. I know that. But this is what it means. Oh, no. She's going to tell me what she is thinking. And she's angry. What did I do? You see, the expression, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind, means I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking because I'm angry. You did something, you said something that I'm not happy about. So when someone says, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind, that doesn't mean they're going to take their brain and give it to you. It means they're going to tell you what they're thinking. And it's because they're not happy. Okay? So as you can see, I couldn't understand all those words working together. Sometimes I need a picture, right? This picture might help me. Sometimes I need to think about the situation. These words don't seem to go together, but because English speakers use them, see, for me, it's a natural expression, but it's not natural for you. You have to learn more about the word. Okay, let's try the other one. Mind my tongue. Okay, now ladies, I apologize again, but you get to be the bad guys here. Notice the mom. What does she say? Take a look. She says, mind your tongue. Don't say those bad words again. Now look at the little boy. I'm sorry, Mommy. I will watch what words I say and not say them again. You see, when someone says mind your tongue, it means watch the words that come out of your mouth. Don't say bad things. So unfortunately, this little boy already said something bad, and then Mommy is like, don't say those words again. Mind your tongue. Guys, mind your tongue is a collocation. But you would not understand it if you did not understand that the word mind has more than one meaning. So what I'm here to tell you this morning is that some collocations, some words that work together will be easy. Others are going to be more difficult because maybe we don't know all of the meanings. Okay? All right, so guys, I wanted to introduce that topic to you today because next week we're going to spend a lot more time talking about collocations. But let's go ahead and just review real quickly the things I talked about here this morning. So once again, so everyone say the word with me again, collocations. Okay, so
Locations.
now guys, English, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, every language uses collocations. Every language uses words together, not just English. But your problem is that you're studying English, right? That's what you have in common. Oh, remember that expression? We have this in common with everyone. Now, another problem is English has the biggest vocabulary in the world. English has words, lots of words, and lots of meanings. So everyone, to be a better English speaker, you need to learn as many collocations as possible. You need to pay attention to how words work together. So for example, don't just look at public and don't just look at transportation. Think of the words together. Public transportation, right? Public beach, public library. Think of those words together, okay? Now, one problem we learned this morning, some collocations are easy, but some are not. And that's because collocations may use the meanings of words that you're not familiar with. You may not know all of these meanings. So again, to think about what we learned this morning, we learned that the word mind has many, many different meanings. But when we look at the words before and we look at the words after, can we begin to understand how the word is being used? For example, remember last week, do you mind if I smoke? Remember that cartoon? We looked at the little cartoon. Now, what words are there to help me? Well, for example, it's a question, right? But notice it also says mind if I do something. And again, smoking is something we don't like. So in this case, the meaning of mind means, does it bother you? See, that's the meaning in this situation. Okay, here's another example. Remember the little boy and his mother? Please mind your tongue. Mind, tongue. Mind your tongue. In this case, the meaning is different. It means watch your words. Watch what you say. Don't say bad things. Okay. Someone mentioned last week, never mind. Right? Do you hear that sometimes? Never mind. Yeah, don't talk. Never mind. What did you say? Never mind. Well, what does that mean? Well, in this case, never, when we use the word never in mind, we usually mean don't pay attention to me. Don't look at me. Just forget it. Yeah. So if someone's arguing with you and someone says, never mind, don't talk to me. In this case, that's the meaning there. And then finally, when someone says, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind, a piece and mind. See how those words are working together? Now what it means is I'm going to tell you my opinion. I'm angry, but I want to tell you what I'm thinking. Now, guys, congratulations. We just talked about 4 different meanings of the word mind. Now, before class today, or maybe even last week, did you know these 4 meanings? Did you know these 4 definitions of the word mind?
No.
Probably not. That's the problem. The problem is words have many, many meanings. So in this case, we have to learn all of those different meanings. Okay? Okay, well, guys, our time is up for today. So for homework, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you once again the links from the Burlington activity. And what I want you guys to do is basically activities 3 to 8. So those activities I demonstrated in the video. And then the idea is next week we're going to use the article, the reading, to teach more about the idea of collocations. But I hope this was an important first lesson for you. And I'll also make a little video to help you with the homework activity. So I'll send that out later this afternoon.